Welcome back to Aurora Tech Channel. Today, I will review the FlashForge Adventurer 5M Pro. It's a new generation fast printer from FlashForge with a retail price between $550 and $600, which is a highly competitive range for a machine of this size. Let's take a look at what we can get from this machine. First, it's fully enclosed. The top cover has a hinge, making it more like a window than a removable top like most other printers. The print volume is a 220mm cube. It's a Core XY machine with linear rods on the X and Y axis with 3 lead screws to support the Z axis. It's running a new generation fast printing firmware, and since it's a closed source firmware, I'll just call it a Clipper style fast printing firmware. The maximum nozzle temperature is 280 degrees Celsius, and the print bed with a double-sided PEI print surface can reach 110 degrees Celsius. For the print head, it has a magnetic cover that can be accessed without loosening any screws. The hot end is also an actual quick swap hot end. It lets you simply push down on the buttons on the sides and pull it out. In addition to the standard 0.4mm hot end, there's also a high temperature hot end featuring a 0.6mm hardened steel nozzle. The extruder is a direct drive with a lightweight stepper motor on the print head. There's also a built-in accelerometer for input shaper calibration. The bed leveling system uses 4 strain gauges underneath the print bed and uses the nozzle for probing, and it also supports auto Z offset. The part cooling fan is a 24-volt brushless Turbo 5015 blower with an auxiliary fan at the side of the enclosure. It has 2 HEPA plus carbon filters and 2 fans inside. You can switch from internal or external filtration just like you can in a car, so when you print filament that requires a high internal temperature, you can trap heat better. For other features, it supports local Wi-Fi, cloud, and USB drive printing. It comes with a camera for you to monitor the print and record time-lapse videos, it has a filament sensor, and it supports auto shutdown once the print finishes. This Adventurer 5M Pro seems to be packed with a lot of features. I would like to thank FlashForge for sending me this machine to review and for sponsoring today's video. And with that, let's get started. The machine comes in one piece, so once you take it out of the box, you just need to remove the protective foam and plastic wrap. Besides the machine itself, we have a 200-gram roll of sample filament, the manual, a filament holder, USB drive, glue, an extra 0.6mm diameter hardened steel nozzle hot end, and some basic tools and screws. After mounting the filament holder at the back, we can turn on the machine. Select language, and there's a message to remind you to remove all protective materials, and 4 screws at the bottom to secure the bed, which were marked with yellow stickers. Just select next, and it shows a countdown of about 9 minutes for the machine to finish all the calibrations. It will start with using the nozzle to probe the bed to do a 25-point auto leveling. After that, it will calibrate the input shaper for the X and Y axis. Then, it shows a screen for you to load some filament. Okay, the setup is done, so we can just click print to do a test print. Let's take a look at the screen menu. You can do some basic adjustments for the Z offset, print speed, flow, and fan speed. Okay, this is just a simple print to confirm everything is working. The extrusion, bottom, and the top are all looking normal. Then, we will take a look at the screen menu. Inside the print menu, the preview thumbnails are super low resolution, so the thumbnail size of these sample files probably weren't set correctly. The next will be the filament menu for loading and changing filament. Then the menu for basic movement of the X, Y, and Z axis, as well as network features. I will most likely ignore the cloud and just print within my local network. For calibration, we already did that when setting up the machine. For filtration, you can select either internal or external circulation, depending on what materials you are printing and if you want to trap the heat better. Finally, for the camera control, I will just enable the camera and see if we can monitor the print remotely. Let's go back to the network menu and set up the Wi-Fi. Just select the SSID and enter your password and it will connect to the local network. Once the machine is connected, it shows a new firmware is available, so I will just let it finish updating and continue. It requires restarting the machine. After a few minutes, it has been updated. Let's take a look at the Network tab, and our previously saved SSID, password, and IP address are still here. I will start the test prints with the 14-minute Benchy G-code file on the USB drive. The first layer is printing quite quickly, and the speed goes up even more after the first 2 layers. When the machine is running at its top speed, the sound level is around the high 60s to the low 70s in decibels, while the sound meter is 6 inches away. I think the loudest thing is still the auxiliary fan, just like all other new generation printers with a large auxiliary fan at the side. When it is fully enclosed, it stays at around the mid to high 50s. The print finally finishes in a little less than 14 minutes. The layer height looks like it's around 0.25 millimeters, and the surface quality is pretty good, considering it was printed at a high speed. The cooling is also okay with a strong auxiliary fan. Let's go to the computer and set up this printer. The easiest way to do this is using FlashPrint, which is their own slicer software. You can bring up the print settings menu by clicking the slice button. In basic mode, you can't change anything, and it will just print with the default 0.2mm layer height, 15% infill, 300mm per second print speed, and 2 walls. You can enter expert mode and it will show all the common settings like other slicers. There aren't as many settings as there are in Prusa Slicer or Cura for you to adjust, but it should cover most basic settings. Once we click Slice, we can just send the print over Wi-Fi to the printer. We can open the printer dialog to monitor the printer. The camera control, light control, and snapshot buttons are available here. Besides using FlashPrint, it also came with an OrgaSlicer profile. If you remember, some sample G-coded files on the machine have a low resolution thumbnail, and we can also fix that here. As you can see, the thumbnail size is set to 20 by 20, which is too low. Normally, I use 200 by 200, so let's change it and reslice the Benchy. The estimated time is 34 minutes. Since Wi-Fi is not supported if you are not using FlashPrint, we will just export the file to the USB drive. Let's start the print from the screen and check the thumbnail. It seems 200 by 200 resolution works fine on this screen, and we're going to have normal thumbnails. The Benchy using the default print profile to slice took 31 minutes to finish. I think the surface quality of this 31-minute Benchy is much better, and the 0.2mm layer lines are also not that obvious compared to the 0.25mm ones, but for fast prototyping, the 0.25mm one is still acceptable. Next, I will print the number slider to test the clearance. The print finishes in less than 2 hours, which is faster than average new generation printers, which typically take around 2.5 hours. The top is printed nicely with no stringing. Normally, I would expect a little bit of stringing between the number and the frame of the tile, but this print looks very clean. The bottom is also printed fine. I have applied glue as the default profile sets the bed temperature to only 50 degrees Celsius, and if you don't want to apply glue, you can set it to 65 degrees Celsius. I will try that on the next print. The clearance of the number slider is good, and all tiles can move freely. Then, I will print the mini honeycomb box to test the retraction of this extruder. As you can see, this model requires the extruder to print a small drop of filament, retract immediately, then move to the next spot. The print took 1 hour and 44 minutes, which is also faster than the average clipper machine. The patterns are mostly clean, but we can see some incomplete patterns in these areas. Compared to other machines, it's not the best or the worst, but in terms of patterns, it printed better than the Creality K1 and the Prusa MK4, and in terms of stringing, it's better than the Qidi X Max 3, X Smart 3, and the K1. Besides a few broken patterns, it's not far from the Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon. Up next, I will print a tolerance test and see how well the cube and cylinder can fit with other parts. The print took 1 hour and 47 minutes. The overshot corners of the cube are not bad, so let's try the tolerance. It can clear up to 0.05 millimeters for the cube, and it can also go up to 0.05 millimeters for the cylinder, which is quite impressive. This is one of the most accurate and fastest for this model so far. Then, I will try a decorative print, the Robo Alpaka from Prusa. It looks pretty fast when printing infill at 300 milliliters per second. The print finally finishes in 3 hours and 26 minutes. The surface quality is also very nice, and I can't see much ringing or layer imperfections. Let's take a look at this model from 4 different angles. When compared to the K1, the FlashForge prints better and faster, so it's a clear winner. When compared to the Qidi X Smart 3, the Qidi is a little faster, but the ringing is not as good as the FlashForge. When compared to the P1P, the FlashForge is faster, but the surface quality of the P1P is slightly better. When compared to the Prusa MK4, the MK4 has the best print quality, but the slowest speed, even with firmware that enables the Marlin-style input shaper. After that, I will print a TPU wallet. For TPU, the volumetric speed of the slicer profile is set to 5 millimeters cubed per second, so the actual printing speed will be limited to 62.5 millimeters per second, no matter what speed you set it to. The print finishes in 1 hour and 2 minutes. The extrusion is perfect. The top and bottom have no issues. I printed it with 2 walls, but it's still kind of transparent. Up next, I will print a PETG pen holder. When printing PETG, the nozzle and bed are set to 250 degrees Celsius and 85 degrees Celsius, so they expand a bit and make the nozzle too close to the bed. But since the textured PEI sheet is forgiving, it shouldn't be an issue once the second layer covers it up. The volumetric speed of PETG is set to 12, so the maximum print speed will be limited to 150 milliliters per second. The print finishes in 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is still pretty fast. The surface is perfect, and there is also no stringing inside the model. The bottom was squeezed a bit too low, but it doesn't have any impact on the model. Then, I will print an ABS crate. My garage is cold at night, so it would be challenging to print ABS with an open frame printer as the print is most likely to crack. But this small enclosure can trap heat quite well, so the chamber temperature stays around 46 to 47 degrees Celsius during the whole print. The print finishes in 2 hours and 50 minutes. This crate is printed nicely, and it's stuck perfectly to the print bed with glue, with no layer cracking. Even when zooming in this close, there is no stringing, and this ABS crate is one of the best I have printed. As this machine came with another set of high-temperature hot ends with a 0.6mm diameter hardened steel nozzle, I will print a cable holder with nylon carbon fiber. Generally, printing something like this with PLA should be good enough, but I just want to see how this printer handles engineering-grade filament. The print finishes in 47 minutes. As we will turn cooling off when printing PICF, these screw holes may not be printed as well as they would with PLA, and the surface also has a little imperfection, but for a nylon carbon fiber print, it still looks pretty good. Finally, I will print a PLA sheet to test the bed leveling and auto Z offset. Besides a few blobs in these areas, this first layer still isn't bad. It can be peeled off as one sheet without the lines being separated. When we look at the textured side of the print, having a bottom like this on your print should come with no complaints at all. Okay, let's talk about the pros and cons of this printer, starting with the pros. 1, it prints fast. It is faster than average clipper machines on almost all of the test prints. While the print quality is decent, it handles all materials well even when printing PLA at 300 milliliters per second and ABS at 275 milliliters per second. When printing at a slower speed, at 200 milliliters per second, it has achieved one of the best results from a tolerance test that I've seen so far, which is really important if you need your model to fit with other parts. 2. The quick swap hotend requires no screws or tools at all. You just have to push the lock and unplug the hot end. This is the fastest way to swap hot ends. It's just as fast as the Ultimaker machines, and considering that Ultimaker charges $4,500 for the printer and $300 for a hot end. 3. It's fully enclosed. You can choose between internal or external filtration, so it can trap heat very well. The chamber temperature can reach up to 47 degrees Celsius, even in my cold 14 degrees Celsius garage. So if you're printing at a normal room temperature of around 25 degrees Celsius, it should be able to go up to 50 degrees Celsius or higher. 4. It comes with an extra high temperature hot end with a 0.6mm diameter hardened steel nozzle, which makes a lot of sense when printing PACF or other abrasive filaments, which normally work better with a large diameter nozzle. 5. The small details are well polished, like the print bed ribbon cable. Feeding through the filament sensor is smooth, and you don't need to twist or bend the filament at an angle to feed it in. The alignment stopper at the back of the print bed is also better than other machines. The auto shutdown feature is also handy. After a print finishes, even though a printer doesn't consume much power when the bed and hot end aren't being heated, the feature still helps to save some energy. 6. The network feature is quite handy when it works. It takes just one click to send the job to the printer, and it can also manage multiple printers, but I will talk more about this in the cons section. Now for the cons. 1. The print volume is a 220mm cube, so it's slightly smaller than average. I don't see why they made it this volume instead of a regular 220 by 220 by 250. It may not sound like that big of a deal, but when you are paying for and expecting a regular size printer, I'd say the machine being too small is always worse than it being too large. This was a pretty questionable decision, as making the Z height just 30mm taller should not be an issue, nor will it increase the cost tremendously. 2. The bed leveling and auto Z offset are almost perfect. I can print a PLA sheet without manually adjusting anything, but when printing filaments like PETG and ABS, the nozzle and the bed temperature are much higher, resulting in the nozzle being too close to the bed. It would be better to probe the bed again and reset the Z offset before every print starts instead of using the same set value for all prints and all materials. 3. The network feature is not as stable as I expected. I experienced the slicer being unable to find the machine on the network, even when manually pinging the IP address could locate the printer. It normally works again if I disconnect the Wi-Fi and reconnect again, or just turn the printer off and on again. This might be a firmware issue, so I hope FlashForge will be able to address this in their next firmware update. Besides that, I have no complaints about the hardware, but for the software I do still have more to say. 1. The slicer is usable, but it's not as good as the Prusa slicer, so it comes with an Orca slicer profile, which is really the fork of Bamboo Studio, which is really the fork of Prusa slicer. But the profile is not tuned well enough. I found the printing time is slightly slower than the flash print. The thumbnail icon was set to 20 by 20 pixels by default, resulting in a super low resolution thumbnail on the screen. 2. The network feature only works with flash print. If you prefer using other slicers like the Orca slicer or Prusa slicer, you need to copy the files to the USB drive and use the printer completely offline. 3. Even when using their flash print slicer to manage the printer, you can select which file to print, but there is no way you can delete or rename files. I enabled time-lapse video recording, but I can't find any way to download those videos from the flash print software. It seems the only way is to insert a USB drive, use the screen menu to select the video, and then copy it to the USB drive. As a slicer made for FlashForge's own printer, I would honestly expect a much better integration with their own printers. In conclusion, the hardware of this machine is really strong, and it prints quickly and well. It handles all materials pretty well, especially when printing ABS with the enclosure that traps heat well, and when printing nylon carbon fiber with a 0.6mm hardened steel nozzle. It performs even better. The quick swap hot end and the quality of the hot end itself is top-notch. In terms of hardware, I don't see any fully enclosed printers in the $500 to $600 price range being able to beat the FlashForge Adventurer 5M Pro. The drawback lies in the software. While their hardware is good, the software is only average, and it's comparable to Creality Print. It's simple and may be suitable for beginners, but it falls a bit short in both slicing and usability when compared to major slicers like Prusa and Orca Slicer. Although the flash print slicer won't make the machine stand out, FlashForge can still keep it as it doesn't cause any harm. However, at the very least, it's not the best idea to make it seem like a drawback by limiting features such as Wi-Fi printing to be exclusively for this slicer. Enabling the Moonraker API to allow this printer to work with any slicer without having to sacrifice the network feature would make up for the shortcomings of their slicers. This provides a complete package with top-notch hardware that works well with major slicers, bringing this printer to the next level without any extra cost. Despite that, this is still one of the best fully enclosed printers in the market right now. If you were interested in the FlashForge 5M Pro, I put its link under the description, as well as the link to my 3D printer price tracker that monitors over 100 popular 3D printer prices and compares their specs. That's it for this video. If you found it helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. And I would like to thank FlashForge for sending me the machine to review and for sponsoring today's video. This Adventurer 5M Pro seems to be packed with a lot of features.